That's it. When you're ready.
Okay. So welcome to another episode of the Manchester SEO podcast. Today, we're really privileged to be joined by Christian Knapper from Lateral Edge Cybersecurity, who are our new sponsors of the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, thank you for that and for coming in, giving us your time. Tell us a bit about Lateral Edge.
So, Lateral Edge Cybersecurity is we help businesses go from hoping they're doing what's proportionate to protect their business to knowing. Emphasis on proportionate, because it has to be that balance that needs to be. But yeah, we cover a lot of areas. So we look at the three pillars: the people, process, and technology, and all the different layers beneath each, really, and try and assist. So whether it be cyber awareness training or help with policies, or you're on a pathway to some compliance that's specific to your sector, or whether it's a full vulnerability assessment, or there's loads, and it's kind of bundled cybersecurity, but always tailored, so specific to the client, really. That's the sort of thing we offer.
I mean, there's so much involving the security of your business from a technical point of view, isn't there?
So it's, I suppose, it's not just technical. I suppose within an organisation, there needs to be a deep understanding and buy-in from all the way from board level, stakeholders and stuff, all the way to the front line of a business. Everyone needs to know the role in which they've got to play in securing their business, their liability, their responsibilities, and it's really important that goes through the entire business. So it's technical is obviously a big part of it, but the understanding of the individuals, the people within an organisation, is very important to ensure that the company's not only got good perimeter defences, but are truly resilient. So if people know their role, know their place, know what they should be doing, they naturally move from reactive to resilient. So it's super important to it's a big animal, I guess, with regards making sure
it's been in the news recently, hasn't it, with M&S in a big way. I mean, to see the damage that can be done.
Yeah. Operationally, it's really quite profound, as well as obviously wiping figures from balances with regards to the value of organisations and the reputational damage that lingers for such a long time. It's very easy to quickly judge or be negative, and a lot of press does gravitate towards that. And these sorts of organisations, such as Marks and Spencer, they've got quite sophisticated teams, and they run tabletop exercises and our big business continuity plans, and disaster recovery plans, etc. And I can't really comment on the detail of Marks and Spencer's, but the impact of that sort of incident, and so there's been not only that, but Harrods and Co-op, and I think there's some overlap with legal aid and the Ministry of Defence, lots really recently, but it's the emergence of those advanced persistent threats, I would say. The timeline, cybersecurity is a standalone sort of practice. It didn't really exist in the same way. It was kind of interwoven within normal IT roles. So if you look back to the 90s, I suppose, access control and basic antivirus, and then moving into sort of the 2000s, and then on to the 2010s, you've got the emergence of the internet and the network oriented stuff. So more emphasis on firewalls, and there's more incidents hitting the headlines. And when you get kind of beyond the 2010s, those advanced persistent threats really stand out, and there's been some super high profile ones like the Marks. Back then, like Sony and like with the PlayStation network, and then various leaks. And so it's not just cybersecurity, it's information security, kind of bundle. But and then of course in the 2010s, it's kind of really pushing the envelope with regards to cloud computing, which we all take as a given now. Cloud computing is interwoven to our everyday, and phones and tablets. They are really so intertwined. So because the landscape's changed so much and evolved so much, and the complexity around it, how do you control that? You need specialities. You need to. So hence cybersecurity kind of breaks apart from a traditional IT role, and looks at that bigger picture. Not specifically, I'm not saying that IT departments don't, they absolutely do, but I'm probably right in saying it's more of the day-to-day operational is the main focus. Is to keep that company going. There is a lot. Everyone's got their part to play, but it's really important for businesses to get some insight. More importantly, independent insight, because without vendor bias, without being attached to a product, to actually be doing things that are tangibly good for businesses to protect them. And that could just be as simple as leveraging what they've already got. They may be paying us for services or bits of software that just might simply not be fully leveraged, or only using a small percentage of their true capabilities in which or not aligning with best practice with regards to those systems. And sometimes companies can go all out and really think they're doing the right thing by purchasing lots of different products, lots of different services, and sometimes it can have the opposite effects if it's not well considered and overlapping a little bit too much. So it's really important to try and get that insight, and to from the vulnerability assessment standpoint, I guess it's not a question of fear, like just trying to scare people of what the art of the possible, what might actually happen, but it's about awareness and making informed decisions. And from a management standpoint, that's exactly what you need in order to really protect your business.
The previous role I had 15 passwords to remember, but they would need changing on a monthly basis. And I'd say to them, this is counterproductive, because how do you remember 15 passwords that change every month, that you can't use a different one? You can't use the same one that you used a year ago or whatever. And the answer is you write it down somewhere.
Okay.
Or use a bit of software or whatever's there, which they weren't providing.
All right, okay.
So, it gets saved somewhere, doesn't it? And I think that's quite common.
Yeah, so passwords, you're absolutely right. It's excuse me, from a user standpoint, it can be very difficult to manage. An average, I've got hundreds of different sites and services I need to log on to or potentially access. Not every day, but still require access to them. So it is really important that people use unique passwords where possible, but complement that with something like a password manager that's secured, or from a company perspective, company controlled as well. Because imagine if somebody leaves the organisation, you need that failover. You need to be able to hand over those roles and access to those services, etc. You don't want to lose those. But it's really difficult to remember crazy unique passwords and writing them down. It's if you've got no other alternative, maybe kind of obfuscate. So create sort of a pattern. If it's something you carry around with you every day, such as a diary, at the back of that diary, don't explicitly say it's your password, but just some prompts to remind you how you formulated that password, maybe a few words, etc. But changing passwords on a high frequency has the opposite effect in most circumstances, because essentially it gets worse over time. The more iterations or the more changes, people just try and change just the one number or letter or a date at the end, etc. So it never really fully changes. It just gets weaker.
So before we go into too much detail on that, what's your background? How did you get into cybersecurity?
Much as the history of cybersecurity and how that kind of broke away from a traditional IT role, I specialised. I was an IT consultant, so I've been in-house IT, and I've been on the road doing site visits to hundreds of different companies, loads of different businesses, some really good insight and experience that carries over into the role I play, or we play today in cybersecurity. It's been great. So some of the experiences, some of the situations, I'm quite comfortable in chaos. So, especially with regards incidents, so I'm involved in quite a lot of incidents, and it is key to be comfortable and know what you're doing in those circumstances. So it's evolved over time. I've working with hundreds of companies, and I suppose it's easy to forget if you've come straight into cybersecurity and the theory of cybersecurity. It's you may well be a little bit more concerned about the 0 day, and not so much the day-to-day, the more shiny elements or more exciting elements of cybersecurity. But it is that day-to-day at its core, is that raising that baseline within organisations that gives the most direct positive impact when it comes to making sure those businesses are resilient. I suppose from a career path standpoint, I've always been interested in so it's an innate curiosity that stems back from when I was very young, and that coupled with perseverance, really relentless perseverance. There's a few challenges I had growing up. I'm dyslexic, and I suppose thinking of ways to overcome obstacles, or that's where the lateral edge comes from, is the lateral thinking. But in the younger days, I've been super lucky because family, friends, etc., just inspirational in what they can achieve, even with various. I don't want to say but potential, but because they were so inspirational, it's never allowed me to have a crutch, or never. There's been no excuse in order to, because the evidence there in their success, the people have been closest to me. So I'm lucky to have some understanding in school and education. Not always, but I love finding alternatives. I love taking a different angle when it comes to problem solving. Truly thinking out of the box in order to, and really thinking end to end, in an engineering way, I guess, in order to really connect the dots, because there's the theory and then there's the real world impact, and that's something that often becomes detached in cybersecurity, because people are involved in incidents, or whether it be losing their identities, etc. They're often not really at the forefront as they should be with what that impact truly looks like. For instance, if someone was breached, such as Marks and Spencer's, then released an email saying, "Don't worry, it's not your credit card details or your debit card details, etc. It's just some bits of information that they've got a hold of about you personally." Well, my argument would be that personal data, that can build an actual full identity, is worth more, and there is a case for that. It's like on the dark web, if you were to try and purchase credit card details, it ranges from £5 to £250, depending on how much of an available balance are on those cards. But essentially, you can cancel a credit card, but you can't cancel your identity. That's why on the dark web you can get full identity packs for around about £800,000. So the actual value to a threat actor of those things. So you really shouldn't underestimate that relevance of those key bits of personal information going astray. Because again, it's not as if you're gonna move home, or it's not as if you can easily close the door once it's opened either. And the consequences of losing that sort of information, the responsibilities businesses hold, is really prolific. Because imagine somebody tries to open an account or take finance using your identity, and obviously no intentions of making any payments. It's got a negative impact on your credit, but that's going to follow you around once if you're about to move house. So that seems so far detached. Those situations, those real situations that people find themselves in, feel very detached from the actual headlines. So it's that understanding end to end, not only the motivations of a threat actor of what they're going to essentially gain from this and what the potential consequences are for them, but the mechanisms in which they use in order to exploit people. And it's very rarely a straight line with regard to attack vector. It's usually like a cascade of weakness.
Sure.
That's what I mentioned briefly earlier, defense in depth, getting all those layers in place, covering the people, process and technology, and making sure that will catch the mischief, but again, in a proportionate way, because operation, you've still got to run. You've got to have a slick, agile organization that's growing. It can't slow people down. It can't aggravate what you're trying to deliver as a business. But you've got to be secure. So it's about finding that balance, that practical balance between the two. And it's often something companies tussle with. But engaging with a company like ours, you'd be able to get kind of a whole of market view with regards, irrespective of what sector you work in, of the options out there for you that could potentially work, depending on the situation, what that company's vision is, what they want to achieve, and what their risk appetite is, and again, informing those people. The reporting that we deliver, it's up to the company. Don't get me wrong. There's interventions that we can do, and we can help remedy some of those potential gaps, work with IT teams in house or externally. But it's essentially it's about understanding those risks and them choosing their path, and it's doing it as a partnership and working together to try and make them more robust and more resilient, and
what's
less sleepless nights.
What do you think the most underrated risks are in businesses these days?
Underrated risks. Okay. Underrated risks, I would say, would be it's rehashes of old cons. It's so some of these things haven't really evolved that much just because of technology. So the simple premise of calling somebody and asking them for something, it still works to this day, and whether it be in a different medium. So an example of that would be send an email. I'll change my reply address to a manager or a director of a business and send it to the financial controller and say, it doesn't have to have any complexity. It doesn't have to have links to all sorts of different fancy websites that'll harness details or so on. It can just be as simple as, how fast does it take for a payment to clear? So you've done that and scale that up times 1,000. So that's your campaign. And then out of that 1,000, you get 50 people that come back that are eager to please their director of their business, and they go, it just clears usually within an hour unless it's this or that. So in that response, then they're on the hook, and then it's great. I need this payment sending as soon as possible. Can you send it to this one? I need this done urgently. And out of that 50, maybe 5 or 6 say yes, and it's below limits to trigger alerts, etc. Then again, it can be really simple. And from a cybersecurity standpoint, would you say that's a cybersecurity issue? Although it originated from an email, certainly. But yeah, it's obviously the most common attack vector is that of phishing and emails. And how that presents itself varies. A lot of the time, it's trying to harvest your credentials. But the most effective ones, I would say, are the ones that are perpetuating. So the ones that's one of somebody in your friend network's already fallen for, and they're using the validity of that person's account because you already conversed with them recently. So you receive an email from them, and it's whether it just be a PDF, something like that, just this really important information. You try and open it, and sometimes you may not think of anything of it, even if you can't get into it, but you've given away, you've authorized yourself or a threat actor into your systems. And on average, threat actors are in those systems for around about 180 days, which is mad. And that's 180 days where they can weaponize the trust that you have and the validity of your account in order to perpetuate the same thing or try and squeeze the most value out of that.
It's essentially a sales list, isn't it? That they just we'll do so many cold calls, and then one will talk to us. And we'll ask them again. Call back in a month.
The one that makes me laugh is the prints, and where you've got like a big inheritance. But honestly, they're not expecting people to respond or to gain a great deal of value from that on the vast majority of cases. But what they're really doing is homing on the scope of their target audience. So if you send out a few thousand of those and 10 come back and respond to that, then they're more likely to fall for something else. So therefore, it's about homing in on their target audience.
Years ago, I had my bank was I had money taken out of my bank account, and it came from a phone call, and they asked me firstly for security information. So they were from the bank, and I said, yeah, it's this, and then they asked me for another. It wasn't that extensive, but it was them that had gone into the account, and perhaps they already had the other part of the security that they needed. But so that happened, and it was ensured that the money was put back in because it was proved to be fraud. And then I was called up by an actual bank that I bank with. I won't name them. And they asked me for, it was a ridiculous amount of information, to the point where I said, I'm not comfortable with this, but they really needed to speak to me. I think I was overdrawn at the time, and they wanted to sort something out. And I said, well, I've already given you enough information that you should know that I'm who I am. And so, so you need to find another way, or we're stuck because I'm not giving you any more.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it's that kind of spidey sense that something's not quite right, and it's something we can all stray away from, when we should really take a breath and stop, question and verify things, especially when when there's just something that doesn't seem quite right in those situations, whether it be a phone call, whether it be an email, whether it be something that looks slightly anomalous. It doesn't take all that much time to do that, to stop, question, and verify. So you're doing absolutely the right thing, whether it be phishing or vishing in that case. But yeah, it's really concerning. But these organisations are massive. They're more like vast business empires than they are what you would traditionally consider a hacker in a dingy room somewhere with a hoodie. They're vast networks of people working together. And sometimes some of those opportunities, a common thing that I get told is, well, we're too small to be targeted. And that's simply not the case, because it's more of the opportunist. That threat actor didn't know who they were going to compromise on any given day half of the time. And it was that opportunity, the same as a potential thief wouldn't have been aware that a handbag would be on the passenger seat of a car left unattended. They didn't set out to take that person's handbag in the morning, but it was there. It was the opportunity. And so for companies that think they're not targeted because they're too small, that's simply not the case. So there is an element of complexity there, where if it's a high net worth target that they stumble across, then they may sell that access on up the chain, or pass it up the chain to somebody that can leverage it more. Or, a lot of the times you probably heard of ransomware as a service, but kind of lowers the bar with regards technical competence when it comes to really having an efficient ransomware attack.
Right.
And there's around about 70 different providers out there that provide this service, and they've got affiliate programs, they've got like marketing, they benchmark the products against other ones, the sophisticated operations, and
benchmark.
Yeah.
Which one should I use?
Exactly. Which one will lock up the files in the most efficient way? Which ones get around this particular antivirus, and so on and so forth. It is.
They have logos of the businesses they've taken down over time. We've worked with these people.
So I'm not sure it's quite like that, but they do have typically attached leaked sites where on any given day there's loads of businesses added on there.
Yeah.
And that's often the first stage, because obviously you get like a ransom note that's intertwined in amongst all of these locked files.
Wow.
And this ransomware note will direct you to a page, and essentially that page will start a timer, whereas often a ransom will double if you don't pay within a certain amount of time. But then that's staged in such a way that they'll supply some proof is that they've got some personal data, they've got something juicy, and they'll start to release snippets of that to the point where they'll then make it public. So a lot of people say it's double extortion, but I say it's triple, because I've come across a few cases where it's not only give us some money and we'll unlock your files, one, two, we're going to make it public, and all your client data, etc., or data specific to you, we're going to make them available to the world. And then the third piece is, we're actually going to report you to the authorities. And how crazy is that threat actors will actually actively go, well, we can see that you've not followed crazy, what you should do with the ICO, and you haven't reported it within 72 hours, and you haven't done X, Y, and Z. So we're also going to inform them on your behalf.
I was referred to a law firm who specialise in a very specific part of law, and they are really interested in boosting their online presence for this. And I was talking to them, and then suddenly it went quiet. And the person that referred me to them informed me what had gone on. I just thought they're not interested anymore. And she said, no, they were a victim of ransomware attack. But it wasn't them that was the issue, it was where it was hosted. So the hosting provider had been hacked, so there'd been some form of I think it was a phishing email that they got in originally, and not only was the website on there, but their case management systems, their emails, everything that the business run off, because law firms are encouraged to be paperless these days. Yeah. And so with that, they can get access to anything that they could work with or work on for 3, 6, 12 months. I think they're still struggling with it. And they had to go back to basics and call people up.
Sometimes it's a really big mountain to climb, because you may well have the backups, unless you can isolate where it came from and how they got in and how they did what they did or where the mischief came from. How do you know you're backing up something that's safe, where the mischief still isn't there? So there's lots of different approaches you can take, and this certain element of scrubbing when you stand back up systems to try and have some assurance that there's mischief still there. But if you haven't really honed in on the most likely cause or got evidence to that point, then how can you really stand those systems back up with confidence that it's 2 days later you're not going to be exactly starting again?
Sure.
It's all depending on, again, it depends on how far your backups go back and how fast you can stand those systems back up, whether you've got an alternative. And again, it's something that every business needs to now think about, and they need to again, going back to knowing everyone's place, it almost has to be muscle memory, not just how to sort of try and isolate mischief and investigate and recover, but it's everyone's place within the organisation. So in most cases that I've worked with, a big danger is the omission of key details. So somebody may have noticed something awry, something that they've clicked on, something that's gone wrong, something doesn't look quite right. But unless you've got baked into the culture of the business that's okay to come forward, it's okay, or people know how to report that incident. That whether you really need to oil the cogs with regards to people's willingness to come forward when they say something.
Not in trouble.
You're not in trouble, because a lot of the time people will just deny all knowledge. Right. And then when you eventually home in, because data sticks around for a good while, and it is possible to forensically kind of trace back. So when you eventually home in on the mischief and the events surrounding it, then all of a sudden you get accounts where, well, this did, I do remember that day. It did look a bit strange, and it did, and that all too often I get that. Well, it's if you'd have communicated that point, or if within your business you had an actual way or means or a process in which everyone knew how to report that sort of indicator of compromise, I guess. And even if you're unsure as to whether that was actually what it was, there needs to be a process in which that's looked at, because timing's mega important with those things. Going back to the thing where I said, well, in most instances, accounts are compromised for sort of 180 days. Or sometimes, it depends, because sometimes tokens and things refresh. It depends on how that account was compromised, whether it was an active browser session that was cloned, which is entirely possible, or it was an out and out, you've authorized somebody's computer elsewhere in a different country somewhere. There's loads of controls and loads of technology that you can put in place, by the way, to protect against that sort of thing. Okay. And they don't have to be things that get in your way. They can just be like device compliance or geographic restrictions. So the internet has no borders. Why have you opened your business up to the rest of the world? Right. In that way, with regards to the ability to log into your systems. Why do that? Why have so many people knocking on the door in the first place? Those sorts of tweaks, like in the case of Microsoft, is conditional access. Those sorts of tweaks we're only about 10 minutes work. And it's very rare the case where there's a big uplift in license in order to achieve those controls. So it's there's some great stuff that you can do. Loads beyond that even, but yeah.
So what are the kind of three main things a business can do to improve their protection?
Really? So the three main things, I would say, first and foremost, is the knowing. So understanding not only the assets that you've got within your business, but the value against those assets, what it truly means to your business, whether it gets lost or exposed to the outside world, and the likelihood in which that could be compromised. So it begins in the knowing. It begins in that initial sort of
education.
Figuring out what you've got as a whole, as a business. And you can be forgiven for getting lost in a business and concentrating on the things on your plate.
Yeah.
So it can often be overlooked. And it can be overlooked as companies grow organically, or they have significant change within an organization, or a lot of digital transformation going on. So they're adopting new systems, etc. And it's hard sometimes to really see how much it's evolved from one place in time to another. So not only is it important to get a good understanding of what your company possesses, assets, people, and whether it be products, services, etc. But it's important to not only do it once, but to continually doing it. It's something that you need to keep looking at, keep understanding, and that attack surface. It's not something you can configure once and walk away from with regard to systems, or I presume that works in that way, or I presume that system's going to work that way in the future, so I'm going to set it this way. When is it ever revisited? When there's people? So it's really important that it's a continual
So continual education, evaluation of what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it needs to be grounded in.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah. So what else?
That's one.
That's one. Oh wow, that's just one. Yeah.
Would you say that's the most important? That kind of education. This is what we've got. This is where the threats are. This is how we counteract it.
I think it is critical, the knowing.
Yeah.
Because
well, if you don't know, how can you do anything about it?
Exactly. Yeah. So I already spoke about it a little bit earlier, but I think the second thing, as well as the knowing, I'm trying to not give typical answers.
Yeah.
Or be too technical, or use up too many acronyms, I guess. But the second thing I would say was going back to the point I made earlier about the getting key stakeholders going all the way from the board to the front line with regards understanding what roles people have to play within an organisation. I think that's really imperative because. Again, it's not just about the technology. If you had asked me specifically about technology, I could reel off some great ones, I guess, with regards specifically. There's so many variables from one company to the next, and the systems that they use that are specific to them. So that would be the second.
So understanding roles within the business.
Yeah, and the entire ethos within the business around cybersecurity and getting people to know that they do have a role to play at every level of an organisation. So I think that's super important. Yeah.
What kind of software is available then? If you or tools, or that you would say, okay, it's a good idea to get these if you
absolutely
can.
Okay, so what I will say is there's never ever just one answer. There's never a silver bullet piece of software anything claiming to do everything or give you total protection, be very wary of. And there is some snake oils out there with regards to products and services and things like that, where they have a negligible impact on protecting your business, but they've just been marketed in such a way that but that's more dangerous in a way because people have got a bit of a false sense of security. But I guess you could start with antivirus. That's a common one. There's some great providers out there. We've got no affiliation with any business. So like the ESET antivirus and Bitfender and Sophos antivirus. They've all got different sorts of tiers of products available, especially for businesses. Some of them are fairly basic. Some of them are reactive and like the XDR sort of solutions. Some of them bridge the gap where you may not have the licensing with, say, for instance, Microsoft 365. You want to use some form of mobile device management and you don't want to have a massive uplift on licensing there. Your antivirus software may already do elements of that with regards to mobile device management, be able to, isolate devices that are being used elsewhere, which is particularly prominent at the moment with regards to the amount of remote working, people working from home, etc., in light of COVID and how those things have changed. So the answer might not be in just concentrating over here. You may, like I was saying about the overlapping services and making full use of them. You can even, for example, you can push out updates. You can make sure the level of updates on people's machines, that baseline's risen throughout the entire organization. And not only that, but where all your assets are and whether they're online or whether what they're accessing. You've got the ability to cut off people's access if there's something strange going on, or they were to leave the company or something along those lines in an efficient way. So again, it's not something that people would first think of when it comes to mobile device management. They may specifically go out there and try and find a third-party product, of which there's many for Apple or Windows devices, etc. And some of them are great, but again, there's never one answer. But there is some absolutely fantastic products out there, and they're experienced with so much. Some of them are, specific to the sector, whether it be law or fintech or accountancy, or there's so much about experience with so many, and it's great to have that insight. But it's not something an in-house team would typically have, or an IT provider that are already affiliated with one product. Whereas to get the insight from someone like ourselves, you get a lot more independent.
What do you think obviously we talk about AI a lot, and everyone does, and it's having effects on a lot of industries from a creative perspective. There's also quantum computing that can have a bit of an issue in terms of being able to
incredible leaps.
And cryptography, in terms of being able to break through things. What's the future hold?
I think we're no longer talking, because there's a lot of people talking in different tents when it comes to AI. AI will do this. AI may well take these jobs, or have this effect. It's not will have. They are having, and it's said it's intertwined. Incredible tool, AI across the board, the likes of ChatGPT and Gemini, etc. But it almost falls into the realms of, because a lot of businesses aren't really. They may get a policy, they may get some subtle training. But do they have a deep understanding about how their business is already using it, and whether that's controlled or not? It will fall under the kind of banner of shadow IT. So that's bits of software that people would use that aren't company controlled, or essentially these are the programs we use within the organisation. Stick with these. Well, typically I'll just use this app. This one works better for my personal use. So that's kind of that you're trying to get around. But ChatGPT falls into that category. You know, whether or not you're conscious of it or not. There's key markers like, you know, those sorts of dashes, like hyphens within the
emojis
you get to recognise the sorts of things that that AI is generating, certainly. But within organisations, imagine, you know, you've heard of Google Workspace and you know, the 365, where you've got OneDrive, you've got all these things that exist and these conversations going on in Teams. You're adding another big workspace in there because ChatGPT is remembering all those conversations. Have your staff really had that education with regards to how to anonymize or how to use those systems in a way that you're not handing over?
Yes.
Not only that, but you've got all that data that's remembered in big, vast conversations, long lists of conversations in there.
Yeah.
But are those accounts secured? Are they attached to their personal accounts, which again may have woeful security attached to them? How straightforward is it to compromise that? Is that the next big targeting individuals in that way, and then and in turn, you know, affecting the businesses directly and the sorts of information they're trying to throw in there to try and be more efficient.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be quite scary. There is options out there. There's a team subscription within ChatGPT which allows an organisation to have an element of control, and you can enforce multi-factor on the accounts. You can cut access to them. And again, that continuity point which I mentioned earlier about if somebody leaves the organisation, they've been working on a particular project, and there's some collaboration points on there. And a lot of the things that you're talking about don't go back to the model. They're not used to educate the model. So, you know, you can have control. You can use those systems, those AI offerings in a safer way, certainly. But education needs to be there for employees. Acceptable use of those systems with regards to policies, etc. It needs to be there within organisations. And the understanding from a leadership standpoint of the implications of how those systems are used.
Yeah, it does. It's that education of the leaders within the organisation, isn't it? That this it has to be a top-down thing where you take control over the usage of these tools. And
absolutely, it's a wonderful tool, and I will say that, you know, one person using AI well can do the job of three.
Yeah,
it's or in some cases more. So the impact more profoundly, largely on society, etc. I can't read this. That's not my area of expertise, but it's profound. It's certainly. But yeah, from a cybersecurity standpoint, it's a massive gap, and it's a gap that many organisations that simply have not got a grip of as of today, because people are just using them out of convenience. It's not really had that understanding within an organisation as to how to control AI. So it's a tricky beast.
So yes. I think that's probably a good place to finish.
Awesome.
It's been an enlightening hour.
This is definitely not my comfort zone.
Really appreciate you coming in and talking to us about what you do and awesome that. And if anyone would like to get in contact with Lateral Edge and Christian, we'll put all the details on the episode. And
fantastic.
And of course, we'll be talking about you a lot over the next 12 months about you on the podcast.
Great stuff. Thank you for having me. It's very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
All right.
Nice, sort of.